Hi, I'm Laura, if we haven't met already, and I wanted to just take some time to go over professional military writing as a military officer. I've had a couple of calls recently with some folks that are thinking about how could they write for publication, and I'll just share with you my journey, and hopefully it might help you or it might help someone you know. So if you haven't started thinking about professional development and writing as a military officer, please start. It is a critical skill. One of my regrets is that I didn't actually focus on writing for publication until later in my career when I was a student at the War College. This is how I accelerated my journey. So hopefully some of these tips and tricks can help you. The first I would say is think about the journals that you're consuming. So I actually developed this list last year when I talked at National Defense University, but I know for myself and when I talk to those students in terms of what websites do they visit every day? Real Clear Defense, Modern War Institute, War on the Rocks, podcasts, The War Room by the Army War College. So there's many more. Feel free to add them in the chat if I forgot some. I'm a huge military nerd. That's how I spend a lot of my time during the week, is consuming military content. So think about the websites that really motivate and that you look forward to reading from every day. The second thing I would think you should do, and I did, was I thought about my own primary experiences, right? So when I came off of a mission, I was usually full of ideas, full of interest and excitement, wanting to learn more, talking to my colleagues, talking to family and friends about the things I learned. So sit down and kind of create maybe some of your own aha moments, and that's what I did after the pandemic mission, the riot mission, work with Afghanistan, ransomware, Ukraine. Sat down, kind of came up with okay, this is how I now perceive information or the situation differently, and start there. The second thing that was important for me was in my writing was doing the research, right? And understanding how in terms of the military, it's a continuum. And where were we before and where are we now, and what in terms of the contrast. So specifically, when I was writing about the Pacific, understanding the picture in the Pacific right now, but looking at where we were during World War II as well and doing that research. When I was writing about unrest, looking at the rioting that occurred in the country in 2020, or the civil unrest, but then also looking at the 1968 time period and what was the military's response. So that's another really easy way when you're writing to kind of get ideas, is to think about what you learned recently, but then also how did we handle this in the past as a military, and how have we evolved, or how haven't we? Whatever you're writing about, something, a mission that you just came off of, more than likely it's very timely and very topical, and that's also going to be great when you're submitting this to various websites or podcasts or things of that nature. You want to make sure too that you understand any constraints that those websites might have. So for some of the websites, they really have specific word counts. They don't want you to exceed 2,500 words or 1,500 words, and that can be an added challenge because sometimes there's just so much to say that you're going to have to probably write a draft and then cut something back. In terms of thinking about how to brainstorm and organize your thoughts, for me, I use the audio notes to text feature. So I am friends with a lot of other military nerds, and if you can believe it, we spend a lot of our time just chit-chatting about what we think is going on in the world, what we're learning from it. And sometimes after I have those conversations, I have so many great thoughts in my head. And so what I do is I'll just real quick do an audio to notes feature so that I kind of have a log that can trigger me to think about it going forward. Also, if you do not know who does your security reviews for your public affairs, you want to make sure that you find out that process before you start thinking about publishing. It's really part of the responsibility as a service member, as a military officer, to make sure that you are doing a security review on any writing, and you want to understand what that process looks like in terms of time, because it might take time, right, for the security review to occur as well. Be open to edits. So I normally will ask a family or friend who is actually not in the military to read my work before I submit it. And for instance, when I wrote about Afghanistan, I was pretty mindful not to ask anyone who had served overseas in Afghanistan, not only because I didn't want that bias, but I want to make sure that it's readable to a more universal and ubiquitous audience. Although for the websites that I mentioned probably have a primary military audience consumption, I want to make sure that any reader could hopefully distill it and gain some information from it as well. So I normally have somebody read it not necessarily for grammar and editing, but for readability. When you do have something accepted by a journal, and I should also caveat that some of the websites want like a little teaser up front, so you can also make sure that you understand that requirement. But once they accept your piece, they might do some editing to it, and that can be robust, or it could be slight. I know when I work with the editors at Modern War Institute, they are amazing. Like they are so generous with their edits. It could seem overwhelming at first, but know that it's just making you better. And so check your ego. Don't necessarily be wedded to anything, and be open to edits. Also be timely. You want to make sure that you're respecting their time. So I personally try to return any drafts that they send me within 24 to 48 hours from them. And that's just to help the process. Now, depending upon, I also entered in writing competitions, so that's another area for you to explore. There's a lot of military writing competitions, Strategy Bridge, I think the JCS has one, the Marine Corps has one. That's a great opportunity if you don't necessarily know what you want to write about, because they'll normally give you a prompt and then you just have to, deliver on that prompt. But understand those are annual competitions. Now, for me, in terms of concept to ideation, to sitting down and writing, to security review, to actually having it published is about a 3 to 4 month journey. It can be different for everyone, but that's what it looks like for me. So I hope this helps you, and if it doesn't help you, maybe it will help someone that you know. And if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. I've learned a lot through trial and error, and I'm always happy to share, not looking to gatekeep. Feel free to also add any comments if I forgot anything. So good luck. Bye.